record the book, so if people miss it, they can hear it. So sorry about that. Let me go back.
It's okay.
And
I thought it was already recording.
there it is. Here we go. Now it's recording. It was at this point that the first thing of all, the rather peculiar thing that led to so many other much more peculiar things, happened to him. For suddenly, just behind him, James heard a rustling of leaves, and he turned around and saw an old man in a crazy dark green suit emerging from the bushes. He was a very small old man, but he had a huge bald head and a face that was covered all over with bristly black whiskers. He stopped when he was about 3 yards away, and he stood there leaning on his stick and staring hard at James. When he spoke, his voice was very slow and creaky. "Come closer to me, little boy," he said, beckoning to James with a finger. "Come right up close to me and I will show you something wonderful." James was too frightened to move. The old man hobbled a step or two near and then put a hand into the pocket of his jacket and took out a small white paper bag. "You see this?" he whispered, waving the bag gently to and fro in front of James' face. "You know what this is, my dear? You know what's inside this little bag?" Then he came nearer still, leaning forward and pushing his face so close to James that James could feel breath blowing on his cheeks. Ugh. The breath smelled musty and stale and slightly mildewed, like air in an old cellar. "Take a look, my dear," he said, opening the bag and tilting it toward James. Inside it, James could see a mass of tiny green things that looked like little stones or crystals, each one about the size of a grain of rice. They were extraordinarily beautiful, and there was a strange brightness about them, a sort of luminous quality that made them glow and sparkle in the most wonderful way. Listen to them move," the old man whispered. James stared into the bag, and sure enough, there was a faint rustling sound coming up from inside it. And then he noticed that all the thousands of little green things were slowly moving, very, very slowly, stirring about and moving over each other as though they were alive. "There's more power and magic in those things in there than in all the rest of the world put together," the old man said softly. But what are they?" James murmured, finding his voice at last. "Where do they come from?" "Aha," the old man whispered. "You'd never guess." He was crouching a little now and pushing his face still closer and closer to James until the tip of his long nose was actually touching the skin on James' forehead. Then suddenly he jumped back and began waving his stick madly in the air. "Crocodile tongues! 1,000 long, slimy crocodile tongues boiled up in the skull of a dead witch for 20 days and nights with the eyeballs of a lizard, and the fingers of a young monkey, the gizzard of a pig, the beak of a green parrot, the juice of a porcupine, and 3 spoonfuls of sugar. Stew for another week, and then let the moon do the rest." All at once, he pushed the white paper bag into James' hands and said, "Here, you take it. It's yours." Chapter 4. James Henry Trotter stood there clutching the bag and staring at the old man. "And now," the old man said, "all you've got to do is this. Take a large jug of water and pour all the little green things into it. Then very, very slowly, one by one, add 10 hairs from your own head. That sets them off. It gets them going. In a couple of minutes, the water will begin to froth and bubble furiously. And soon as that happens, you must quickly drink it all down. The whole jugful in one gulp. And then, my dear, you will feel it churning and boiling in your stomach, and steam will start coming out of your mouth. And immediately after that, marvelous things will start happening to you, fabulous, unbelievable things, and you will never be miserable again in your life. Because you are miserable, aren't you? You needn't tell me that. I know all about it. Now off you go and do exactly as I say. And don't whisper a word of this to those 2 horrible aunts of yours. Not a word. And don't let those green things in there get away from you either. Because if they do escape, then they will be working their magic upon somebody else instead of upon you. And that isn't what you want at all, is it, my dear? Whoever they meet first, be it bug, insect, animal, or tree, that will be the one who gets the full power of their magic. So hold the bag tight. Don't tear the paper. Off you go. Hurry up. Don't wait. Now's the time. Hurry!" With that, the old man turned away and disappeared into the bushes. Chapter 5. The next moment, James was running back toward the house as fast as he could. He would do it all in the kitchen, he told himself. If only he could get in there without Aunt Sponge and Aunt Spiker seeing him. He was terribly excited. He flew through the long grass with the stinging nettles, not caring whether he got stung or not on his bare knees, and in the distance he could see Aunt Sponge and Aunt Spiker sitting in their chairs with their backs toward him. He swerved away from them so as to go around the other side of the house, but then suddenly, just as he was passing underneath the old peach tree that stood in the middle of the garden, his foot slipped and he fell flat on his face in the grass. The paper bag burst open as it hit the ground, and the thousands of tiny green things were scattered in all directions. James immediately picked himself up onto his hands and knees and started searching around for his precious treasures. But what was this? They were all sinking into the soil. He could actually see them wriggling and twisting as they buried their way downward into the hard earth. And at once he reached out a hand to pick some of them up before it was too late, but they disappeared right under his fingers. He went after some others, and the same thing happened. He began scrambling around frantically in an effort to catch hold of one of those that were left, but they were too quick for him. Each time the tips of his fingers were just about to touch them, they vanished into the earth, and soon, in the space of only a few seconds, every single one of them had gone. James felt like crying. He would never get them back now. They were lost, lost, lost forever. But where had they gone to? And why in the world had they been so eager to push down into the earth like that? What were they after? There was nothing down there, nothing except the roots of an old peach tree and a whole lot of earthworms and centipedes and insects living in the soil. But what was it the old man said? Whoever they met first, be it bug, insect, animal, or tree, that will be the one who gets the full power of their magic. Good heavens, thought James, what is going to happen in this case if they do meet an earthworm or a centipede or a spider? And what if they do go into the roots of the peach tree? Get up at once, you lazy little beast, a voice was suddenly shouting in James' ear. James glanced up and saw Aunt Spiker standing over him, grim and tall and bony, glaring at him through her steel-rimmed spectacles. Get up over there immediately and finish chopping up those logs, she ordered. Aunt Sponge, fat and pulpy as a jellyfish, came waddling up behind her sister to see what was going on. Why don't we just lower the boy down the well in a bucket and leave him there for the night? That ought to teach him not to laze around like this the whole day long. That's a very good wheeze, my dear Sponge, but let's make him finish chopping up the wood first. Be off with you at once, you hideous brat, and do some work. Slowly, sadly, poor James got up off the ground and went back into the woodpile. Oh, if he only hadn't slipped and fallen and dropped that precious bag. All hope of a happier life had now gone completely. Today and tomorrow and the next day and all the other days as well will be nothing but punishment and pain, unhappiness and despair. He picked up the chopper and was just about to start chopping away when he heard a shout behind him that made him stop and turn. That's where we will end. Your question today, by the way, is, and this is a creative one, listen to this. Imagine what would have happened to James if he had drunk it all down as the old man had instructed, instead of the seeds spreading out all over the ground. Imagine if he did drink it, what would have happened to James? No one knows. You can use your imagination. It's a great story, James and the Giant Peach. So let's take a look again at our, let me get y'all big again here. Stop the share. Oh, there I am.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
Here. No.
Yes, we're going to take a look at now. Let's see if I can find it here.
What are the gifted thinking questions for today?
Hold on just a second and let me see what happened to my document. I don't see the thing I was going to do next, unfortunately. Here we go. There it is. Yay. All right, so in your poetry, alliteration, pretty princess, busy as a bee. Now, you know, that's the first letter. So in poetry, often authors will write words that all have the same beginning sound at the beginning. Cool, Carl called Katie. So there's an example of alliteration where every sound is the same at the beginning. And it's a very common technique that
I don't even
poets
understand that.
use.
It makes absolutely no sense to me.
What doesn't?
The alternation. It just like when you read either of those sentences, it makes no sense to me.
Cool Carl called Katie. It has the
Nope.
same sound. Busy as a bee. The first sound of each word has the same sound. That's called alliteration.
I would, but
Yeah, they talk about that in like Dreamscape.
In assonance, those are the middle sounds. So you have un, hung, and bun. So you got the sound happening over and over again. There's
That
the
one I
sound here. Excuse me. Everybody mute your microphones, please.
Okay.
Thank you. And That's assonance. So if you want to use alliteration, it's the first letter. If you want to use assonance, it's the middle sounds. Like you'd have a bunch of words that have the sound "ite," like tight, bite, might, right. That would be an example of assonance. So if it's the first sound, it's alliteration. If it's the middle sound, it's assonance. And again, poets use this technique all the time to make their words flow together. And that's just a poetic element. If you use a metaphor, you're comparing something in life to something else. Like he was strong as he was ox strong. In other words, his power was so mighty, it was an ox that was moving through the fields carrying great big farm machinery behind it. You guys know what onomatopoeia is?
Yep.
If you listen to a bell, the word ring, it sounds a lot like the sound the bell makes. So that's the sound that the word makes that represents the actual sound.
wait, how do you pronounce that?
Ring? Oh, this one? Onomatopoeia. That right there.
Onomatopoeia?
Yeah. That P-O-E is Latin, and it's pronounced peia. So onomatopoeia.
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 Repetitions, and we'll stop right here. Repetitions, if you remember the poem that we memorized earlier in the year, Tiger, Tiger, Burning Bright, that uses a lot of repetitions. In fact, it repeats the first stanza and the last stanza. So today, in your poetry writing, try to use some alliteration, try to use some assonance, use a metaphor, throw in some onomatopoeia, and try some repetitions. And we'll go on and talk about the other elements tomorrow. So let me stop the share here and bring me back up. So today, again, we're going to be there the whole day. If you have a question right now, you can unmute your microphone.
Mr. Bagby, can we see if we can still I'm unmuted. Well, can we see if we still remember Tiger, Tiger, Burning Bright?
Well, this is
Do it together.
Well, you can yourself. Not right now. That you got to run.
This
I got another.
is thinking. That's not.
Guys, just because he said we can unmute each other doesn't mean we have to yell.
Okay, does anybody have a question? If you do, unmute and
I
ask
do.
a question. Don't
I do.
unmute it once. Unmute if you have a question.
I have a question.
Go ahead, Keon.
How do I get on Miss Dirk's Zoom meeting?
Mrs. Dirks, I don't think she has held a Zoom meeting yet, but she'll do it just like I do. She will give you a link, and you click on that link, and you go right there.
Okay.
Anybody
Mr.
else have a
Bagby,
question?
is she doing one today?
I'm not sure. You'll have to check on her page.
Where is her page?
Her page is on Teams.
What?
Yeah.
Where
You
are
go-
teams?
You can go to her
Is
announcements
it
page. You can go to her page.
Is it
Yeah,
a
see your
specific
announcements?
team or is it in Bagby? Is it in your team or is she have her own personal team?
Candy.
So how does she communicate with you? Because I just post
Well,
stuff on
yeah,
the
she
announcement
just
page.
yeah, she just posts stuff on like all the pages that we have.
Exactly. That's it.
Yeah, you say her page and we're like,
Well,
wait, she
it's
has a
her page in
page?
that it's her ability to communicate with you. I can do the same thing on her homeroom page. So it's basically we share the pages, but you can't go to her page and see all of the comments from other students in her homeroom. Okay.
Oh, I got it. I got it.
Candy.
Anybody else have questions? All right, really do your best today and get your homework in. And again, if you turned in an ancient Greek assignment with no name, it's kind of floating in there in my team's inbox, and I don't know who did them. So
How do we add the name?
I'm gonna put those up.
Mine just has a name as the subtitle.
Mine doesn't have a name. Mine doesn't have a name
I
in the
think
title,
that's-
but in the first slide it says Ancient Greece Geography by Milo Schlocke. So
I opened up all of them. So if I saw your name in there, it has your name in there. These are ones where I opened them up and the title is not in the name is not in the title of the file, nor is it inside of the file. It's just nowhere. So
Yeah, that's mine.
yeah.
Where do I add the name?
You just add your name inside of the either Word document.
And then do I send it again?
Yeah, send it again. In fact, when you rename it with your name, because if you look at the files today, I put the person's first name in front of the name of their file. That way you all know what you're clicking on. For example, Chloe has a file in there. It's a Word document and it says Chloe before the title of her project. Okay?
Mr. Bagby,
Yep.
did you get mine?
I can't say off the top of my head. I have to look at my list. Who was that anyway? Who just asked me that?
Me, Haley.
Who?
Haley.
Haley?
I uploaded it with my homework.
Okay, then I have it.
Okay.
All right. We're going to close this meeting down because I got to get ready for Mrs. Dirk's Zoom meeting. So have a great day today. Remember, we're always here to answer any questions you have. So I have the ability now to just end the meeting. So everybody say goodbye to each other and I'm going to click end.
Bye.
bye.
People.
Bye, guys.
Bye. 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 Bye.
Have a great day. It's beautiful out there. Walk outside once and breathe some fresh air, okay?
I
Okay.
do that all the time.
Good.
I'm
I
outside
play
more than I'm inside.
Yeah, if we didn't breathe air, we'd die.
Well, people are telling people to stay inside to be safe, but you still have to walk outside.
Yeah, me and my
Like
mom
you can
on a
go
bike
in
ride.
your backyard.
Exactly.
I have to go swimming. in
All
my
right, I'm
backyard.
going now. Bye-bye. See you soon.
Bye.